Hello and welcome to Cause and Effect and our first proper episode together. I'm so pleased you're here. Today we are going to be talking about that feeling of firefighting that most of us have experienced at some point in our time in the sector. And I really want you to start by imagining it's Monday morning. You had a plan for the week, as you always do, some time to look at the upcoming bids, a review of the strategy, and a conversation with HR that you didn't get to last week. But before you've even had your first coffee, something's landed in your inbox and it makes your heart sink. And just like that, the week you planned is gone again. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And this feeling of firefighting is one of the most common things leaders bring to our coaching sessions. They just want to find that control in their week again. And if you're caught in this cycle, the first thing I want you to know is this. It's not a failing and it's not a sign that you're not a good leader. It's a pattern that you've got caught in that once you're there, it's really difficult to escape from. And it has multiple causes. And you're probably wondering why this keeps happening and why, even when you know what you should be doing differently, does it feel almost impossible to change? If we think about some recent sector research that found that 78% of charity workers felt emotionally exhausted or burnt out at least some of the time, it's not surprising. Because that figure isn't a reflection of weakness or charity workers not being resilient enough. It's a reflection of the systemic problem of which firefighting is a key factor. Now, it's not always dramatic or visible to others. Sometimes it's just the slow erosion of the good intentions that you had at the start of the week because of the constant needs of others bringing things to your door. You start the week with a plan, but your diary is full of meetings and the gaps fill up fast with other people's urgencies. And when something urgent lands, as it always does, it feels impossible not to respond. You drop what you were doing, you deal with the problem, and then you try to catch up by working through lunch, staying late, or logging back on in the evening or over the weekend. And there becomes no escape from work. It becomes all-consuming. And because you're constantly interrupted and having to restart, maintaining your focus becomes even harder. And the work feels harder. So you start to procrastinate on the very work that you want to prioritise. You are spread too thin, working hard but not effectively. And the consequence of this is that self-doubt creeps in. You wonder why you can't stay on top of everything like you used to, and you wonder if you perhaps just don't have what it takes anymore. And this spiral from firefighting to self-doubt, guilt, and negative self-talk is something I see again and again with the leaders I work with. But it's not your fault. It is what happens when capable, committed people are working in conditions that make sustainable leadership really, really difficult. And there are several things at play here. And understanding them is the first step to addressing this problem and creating some change. The first is that the sector sets you up for it. There is more work than there are resources to do it. The charity sector fills gaps left by other sectors. The needs of the communities you serve are urgent. And for smaller charities especially, we've seen senior leaders end up covering everything. So that you're the fundraiser, your communications, your HR and operations, and it leaves you feeling like you have to be an expert at everything and do everything. This constant busyness has become normalised and a badge of honour even, and we have all just accepted that this is how it is in the sector. The second is that your values are working against you. You got into this work because you care, you feel responsible, and that's exactly what makes it so hard to slow down, to say no, or to let something wait. There's a values clash happening between protecting your own time and energy and responding to what feels urgent and important around you. And in that moment, the urgency almost always wins, not because you're weak or disorganised, but because your values are pulling you towards it. The third is something that often goes unspoken and is perhaps the thing that matters most. Many of the leaders I work with carry a belief, and sometimes this is conscious, but usually it isn't, that being a good leader means being available and always responding and always being there for everyone else. That self-sacrifice is what commitment looks like. That by saying no or protecting your time for the work which you should be focused on somehow makes you less dedicated to the cause or less supportive of your team. So when you're told to try things like time blocking, or to take breaks, or leave on time, or delegate more, or to not immediately respond to every request, it doesn't just feel impractical, it feels uncomfortable, like you'd be letting people down, like you're choosing yourself over that mission. And it's that feeling of guilt or anxiety that we need to address, not the management hacks around it. And this is why the generic advice so often fails to stick. It's not that you don't know what to do, it's something much deeper getting in the way. And until that underlying belief about what being a good leader really looks like starts to shift, you're never going to shift how you're working and get out of that pattern of firefighting. And I want to be really clear, this isn't another thing to beat yourself up about. These beliefs make complete sense given the sector you work in and the values that brought you here. But it does help us understand why you can't make those shifts and why working at a deeper level, not just a practical one, makes a difference. And there's a fourth thing that doesn't get talked about enough. When you're constantly in a reactive cycle, a reactive way of working, your capacity to think clearly, to plan strategically, to problem solve, and to make good decisions is genuinely compromised. The busyness itself becomes the barrier to change. And that constant busyness also disconnects you from your own experiences of work and life. And you stop noticing how you're feeling, what you need, what's actually working, and you get stuck in this cycle of reacting. So I suppose you're wondering what we can actually do about it, and that's the important thing, isn't it? Instead of just focusing on the changes you know you want to make, what I want to share are some steps that help you understand why those changes haven't worked before and help you think differently about what good leadership actually looks like, so you can make the choices you want to make. So the first step is to start with a pause, not a plan. Before you respond to the next urgent thing that lands, take a breath. Create a small gap between the demand and your response. Ask yourself, does this actually need me right now? This isn't about being unhelpful or not responding when a team member wants something. It's about starting to notice your automatic pull towards saying yes and helping. You can't change a pattern you haven't noticed, and this small pause will help you create that change. The second step is to get curious about the discomfort that you might be feeling when you don't immediately respond. When you try to block time for a strategy or leave on time or ask someone to solve their own problem, notice what comes up. Are you feeling guilt, anxiety, a nagging sense that you're failing or letting someone down? That discomfort and the emotion behind it is really important information. It's pointing you towards the beliefs that are keeping this pattern in place. And that discomfort is what's making you say yes when you want to say no. Don't push through it. Instead, get curious about it and try to get comfortable with the feeling. It will pass. And once we can accept that sometimes there's going to be a difficult feeling, but that we can be okay with that, we can then start to make the decisions we want to. The third step is to ask a different question. Instead of asking yourself, what should I be doing, which is loaded with guilt and obligation, try asking yourself, what is the best use of your time as a CEO right now? It sounds like a small shift, but it's significant. It moves the decision away from moral territory to a strategic position. What does this organisation actually need from me? It helps to depersonalize the decision making and give you some distance from the choice that you're making. The fourth step is to start smaller than you think you need to. Let's not start by trying to overhaul your week. Can you protect 30 minutes or 1 hour for thinking? Can you ask a team member for their solution before you jump in with yours? Can you delegate one task? Can there be one evening where you leave on time? And then notice what happened. Was there a very negative outcome? Probably not. Probably everyone will have got on and everything will be okay. But you need to experience that, not just believe it. You need to be able to manage the discomfort you may experience by shifting your way of working. And the fifth step is to name what you're modelling. Your team is watching how you're working. If you're always available, always responding, always the last to log off, they'll do the same. Urgency and working reactively is contagious, and so is calm, deliberate leadership. The most powerful organisational change you can make right now is to visibly, intentionally start working differently. And that doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be a little bit different, it has to be a little bit slower. Talking about these small changes in how you work sends a message to your whole team about what good leadership looks like. And this is the thing, firefighting isn't the time management problem that we often think it is. And it isn't a sign that you're not a good leader. It's what happens when passionate, committed people work in a system that demands more than it gives and haven't had the permission to do things differently. If you're struggling to give yourself permission to work differently, like many of the leaders I work with do, consider this. The belief that good leadership requires self-sacrifice runs deep in the charity sector, and it contributes to the levels of burnout that we see. But we don't just have to accept that this is how the sector is. Changing the level of demand and the resources available isn't easy or quick work, but we can shift how we work. And that starts with us thinking differently about what it means to be a good leader. It means we start to shift from thinking that good leadership means being there all of the time to being able to pause, to work slower, to think about what's realistic and sustainable. And so this week I would really encourage you to think about what good leadership means to you and whether there's anything that needs to shift. So that's it for today. If you liked today's episode, please make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you know someone who would benefit from listening, please do share. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.